we head out to the fan hotline and welcome on Albert Breer of the MMQB, as we do every single Tuesday at 5:20. Albert, welcome to the show, bud.
Hey, what's up, guys? I've been looking forward for 48 hours to appear on this station. I've enjoyed so much of the content that I've seen pumped out on the Twitter account over the last couple of days, so can't wait to go.
I will say, you could retweet one of our videos next time. No offense to the morning boys, you could retweet one of our videos.
I like Lima, also, so but yeah, it was. It's amazing, what happened. I think if I could have drawn up the most ridiculous reaction to when Shedeur actually got in the game, somehow we topped that on Sunday, with what was happening on social media while it was happening. So yeah, here we are, and we'll see how it goes.
You tweeted something to this, so you've had about 24 hours to think about it. 5 years from now, how do we all look back on the Shedeur saga just in his rookie year from April on?
Probably it was Tebow mania on steroids. I don't know. I honestly, I just don't have anything to compare this to, at least Tebow is a first-round pick. This is, a fifth-round pick who I think, was overvalued by a lot of people in the media. At one point, I was part of that group, although by the time we got close to the draft, I think if you guys were listening to me, I was sort of explaining what could happen, and it's, I think that I think right now what we're seeing is what teams were fearful of, that we're looking at him in the third and fourth round, right? If we draft him, could this turn into a circus? And, it's not all his fault that it has, but that's exactly what's happened. You know what I mean? I think it becomes sort of a challenging thing for everybody, and how do you tamp down the some of the hysteria over it. He didn't play very well on Sunday, which I think you saw a lot of the things that we've been trying to explain to you for the last. I'm not talking about you guys, but you, the listener, we've been trying to explain to you for the last 5 months. That. This is a guy who had a ways to go when he came in the league, and that's not an insult. It's just what it was, and I think you saw a lot of that. The footwork was a mess, kept bailing out of the pocket like he did at Colorado. Didn't seem to see it fast enough. There's just all that stuff that, the criticism of him, leading up to the draft, a lot of it was valid. And I think we saw that on Sunday. And as for how we're going to look back at this 5 years from now, you'd hope by then maybe the Browns have a long-term answer at quarterback, and if they do, they're probably going to look back at this and laugh. Which is unfortunate because I don't know that Shedeur necessarily deserves that, but people who are building this up to be the sort of thing it's been built up to be, I think are at fault for all that.
Well, but doesn't it feel a little too early? It was just one half of football, Albert.
No, I'm not saying it's over for him. I'm not. And I don't want, but what are the chances that he's the quarterback for the Browns next year, based on what you saw?
Well, yeah, if it was based off what we saw, obviously not very high, but I'd make
based on where wait, and based on where he was drafted, what are the chances of that? If you look back at the history of it,
not yet. Again,
so
not very high.
What are we going on then? That's my whole thing. You know what I mean? Hope. What are we going on? It doesn't seem like whenever I ask somebody that question, I don't want to be I'm not cross-examining you guys. Don't take it that way, but I'm sort of still searching for people what people are going on at this point. Draft position, the NFL told you what they thought, right? He winds up, being at the bottom of the depth chart. And then, you see some of these things happen over the course of time, and, he gets in because the Browns were down to the third guy, and the third guy got hurt. And then he gets in the game and doesn't look good. I'm struggling to see exactly what people are wrapping their arms around right now.
I guess before I'd make any declarations or anything like that.
Is that it? His last name?
No, but it was one half of football, though, Albert. I think that's the part I'm going to hang on to.
I know. And again, don't take this as a cross-examination, but if this guy didn't have the last name he has, how would you be looking at that?
You mean just the half of football? Well, we can look at even with the last name. It was an awful half of football.
Let me answer that for you, okay? Again, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but if that was Shedeur Smith that came in as a fifth-round rookie and played that way, you'd be like, oh, my God, I hope he never gets in the game again.
I don't know. Based off of watching Dylan Gabriel for now, what was that, 6 weeks of Dylan Gabriel where he didn't push the ball down the field? I think I'd be encouraged by the 25-yard throw to Fannin and the idea that not only did he move with Isaiah Bond and tried directing him as the play was going on, but the Larvidan throw was right on the money as well. Like I guess I kind of got excited by the idea.
The Larvidan throw was on the money. The guy was covered.
Well, it hit him in the chest.
With a defender right there.
He put it right where he needed to. Like you can make an argument a number one wide receiver catches that.
You were looking for like a. I don't know.
The point is that he actually threw the ball. No, but the point is we watched Dylan Gabriel have the lowest ADOT ever, and then Shedeur actually was able to throw the ball. And because we like that final drive, Albert, I actually thought they had a chance to tie the game. If it was Dylan in that spot, zero chance. And I know I'm clinging to basically nothing. I get that, but like it did look different than Dylan, and I think that matters.
Yeah, okay. And I just want to kind of go through that exercise because like I do think, like, to some degree, people are like, I just don't know what you're clinging on to. And that's fair saying, like, versus what you got, because what you got from Dylan wasn't great, right? But, I mean, like, I think if there's a valid criticism on the Browns of the handling of the quarterbacks is trading Kenny Pickett. That's my opinion, because, I mean, Pickett isn't that much older than Shedeur, is he? What is he, 3 years older than him? Mm-hmm. You know, so 3 or 4 years, whatever it is. So you look at Kenny Pickett and it's like, well, he's probably not the answer either, but he's a former first-round pick. He's got better physical tools. He's been a starter in the league. Like,
yeah, but he sucks. Yeah, but he sucks.
Do you know that? Like,
I watched him. I watched him in Pittsburgh for 2 years, stick it up.
Yeah, you watched him. You watched him in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh gave up on him. But I'm saying, like, do you think that there's more of a chance that Kenny Pickett, based on like talent and all that other stuff, like Kenny Pickett, I think has a better chance to be a long-term starter based on what we know than Shedeur Sanders does. I'm just trying to strip the hysteria out of this. Like, and I am giving you guys a hard time here too. So like, don't take it the wrong way. But like, I'm trying to strip the hysteria out of this and just, you know, get you to treat Shedeur like any other player, which I think was what would serve him best too. Personally, like, I don't think. I think like what Kevin and the coach have been trying to do is trying to give him a chance to develop properly. And, you know, I think what we saw on Sunday were some flashes of some ability, but like a guy who clearly wasn't ready to play. You know what I mean? Like, he's just not ready to start in the NFL. And like, I think you can see it with his footwork. I think you can see it what he does with what he does in the face of pressure. You know, like, you gave a lot for a defensive coordinator to work with, like on that tape, you know? And so again, I think that there's some stuff to like in what you saw with Shedeur from a ability perspective, but like, it's not like we're talking about like a Josh Allen or a Caleb Williams or like that sort of talent. There's some ability there. And then I think you also saw a guy who's still pretty raw, who has a ways to go, and you know, maybe you would benefit from sitting the whole year. I think you at least see some validity in the Browns handling us the way they did.
Yeah, I would also say, though, like, I understand we can throw to like a Jordan Love or we can throw to like a Mahomes. He's a 5th-round pick. Like, if he's a developmental prospect, like a lot of the things that we saw, holding onto the ball too long, the forcing a throw here or there, aren't those all things that the only way you truly get them out is if you just play?
I mean, I think that's a way to develop bad habits too. You know what I mean? Like, if you go out there and you don't know what you're doing, or you're not ready for it, like, you know, it kills your confidence. It's really hard to rebuild a kid's confidence when he's in the NFL. I mean, most of these guys come from college. I mean, most of these guys are stars on their teams, right? Like, and I know, like, you know, and even guys who are drafted in the 5th and 6th and 7th round, a lot of times those guys were really good college, like really, really good college players, you know? And so, like, you know, I think, like, they all come to the league with some level of confidence. You wouldn't have made it there if you didn't have it, you know? And, like, the worst thing you can do is go and kill a kid's confidence, because at that level of the sport, it's hard to get it back, you know? And so does that mess up his clock if he's out there and he's taking hits, and like, does he get sped up? And then if he gets sped up, how do you fix that, you know? Because he can't see it quite fast enough yet, or it's just, there's a million things that can happen with a quarterback where, you know, like Sam Darnold's a good example of it. You know, like Sam Darnold, got thrown out there before he was ready. They put too much on his plate. He wasn't ready to run an offense that was, being called by Peyton Manning's old offensive coordinator, Adam Gase. And like, he got in his own head. That's where the seeing ghosts thing came from. You know what I mean? Like, it took years to fix that with him, So I think in a lot of cases, and Sam came into the league, he was really, really raw. He had a long way to go. He's talented, but he had a long way to go. There are a lot of examples of that, of guys who, I think can benefit from sitting and learning in the background and making progress and not going and getting thrown out there and having their confidence crushed, because I think at that level of the sport, if your confidence craters, it's really difficult and it takes a lot of time to get it back.
Yeah, and like you mentioned that, and one thing that I honestly would...
one thing Matt LaFleur said to me. I will say that. Let me just give you guys an example so you're not just listening to me, right? Like Matt LaFleur, when I asked him about sitting Jordan Love for 3 years, his response to me when I asked him about that, he was like, well, I asked him, in retrospect, did that kind of work out the way it should? And he said to me, I think every quarterback should get that. And his point was the one I just made. I'm sort of stealing it from him, But he said, he's like, if you throw him out there before he's ready, it's going to kill his confidence. You kill his confidence, it's really hard to get it back.
Well, so on that then, do you think that they're burning almost two quarterbacks? Because one takeaway that I did have, Albert, after that game, and we'll see how this goes for Shedeur, is I actually had empathy for Dillon Gabriel. As much as I didn't think of him as being some great prospect or anything, you have the 32nd ranked offensive line. Dillon got pressured 25 times in the Jets game. Shedeur got pressured on 12 of 21 throws in that game. They blitzed him like crazy. But you have an awful offensive line, and you don't have much of a receiving core. Like, you can make an argument that really good quarterbacks would struggle with what the Browns are currently presenting as an offensive plan.
I think you see some things though with Dillon. Like, as much as he's not I think Dillon. My feeling is Dillon's ceiling is probably being Chase Daniel. I think you guys that's fair, right? Like, he's probably somebody like that who I think can be good for a quarterback room, can be in the league for a long time. Eventually, smart kid, can grow into somebody who can be a resource for your starter. And if you got to throw him out there for a game or two, you can survive. I think that's Dillon, which isn't there's no shame in that, but I think that's sort of what Dillon is, And you can see those things with Dillon already. I think there's less of a risk that you're going to kill Dillon's confidence just because he's more evolved as a quarterback. And you can see little things when he gets blitzed, he throws hot. How often did you see Shedeur do that? Shedeur's not really throwing hot, right? You see Shedeur, the blitz comes, his eyes drop, and all of a sudden, five guys are in his face, and he's running for his life. There's things built into these offenses where it's okay, I see the extra guy coming. This guy's going to be open. I'm throwing it fast. I'm getting rid of it fast. It's just little things like that, where I think you see it with Dillon, where it's all right, he's not excelling, but you aren't crushing him. You aren't totally annihilating, because he has an idea of what to do in those situations. You put a quarterback out there who doesn't know how to deal with those situations, and then he gets his head knocked off in the process. It's really going to harm his ability to develop that in the long run, which I think is sort of the overall point that a lot of coaches would make on these guys, is that a lot of these guys are forced out there too quickly, and a lot of that can relate to the state of a franchise or a coach's job security or other factors that shouldn't really play into it.
Albert, if it was up to Kevin Stefanski, do you think Shedeur would be here at all?
It's a good question. I think now my understanding was he was pretty high on their board, for where he was picked. Now obviously, there's a limit to how much you can say that, because they had a higher grade on Dillon Gabriel. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken Dillon Gabriel in the third round. So, my understanding was it did get to the point where, and you guys know how they're not even magnets anymore. All of it's digitized. But when you have one name that's kind of above the rest, it's okay, we can ignore that for so long. We have to ignore that. We can only ignore that for so long before we actually make a decision, and we actually pull that name off the board. And I think they got to that point with Shedeur. Did Kevin have misgivings on that because of how that related to how that might have affected the rest of the guys, on the roster, how it might have affected the locker room, and is it worth it with a fifth round pick? Then yeah, I would say yes, that there's that he would have some questions about that. And sorry, my kid came in here and whispered something in my ear, and I'm distracted, which is why I sound like I was delaying there.
No worries at all.
He was probably like, Shedeur doesn't look that bad, Dad. Be nicer.
He did a wrist up.
He has basketball and lacrosse tonight, and he came over to me and he whispered into my ear, "I want to go at lacrosse," and I ignored him at first, and then he repeated it. I'm like, "Get away from me, buddy! Enough. Good. I'll take you to lacrosse." So anyway,
is it safe to say then, if you were running the Browns right now, you'd play Bailey Zappi then instead of Shedeur this week against the Raiders with Dylan still in the concussion protocol?
I mean, based on what I see, and I'm not a scout or a coach, so I want to be clear about that. But like, I did see, like, you're going to be going up against Patrick Graham this week, right? And one of the more complex defenses that you'll face. So maybe he'll look good. Maybe they can game it up because the Raiders don't have great players, or maybe Patrick Graham puts him in a blender. And then where does that leave you? You know what I mean? Like, now you got to unwind some of those things. I don't know. Like, again, like, I don't have the information that Kevin Stefanski or Tommy Reese or any of those guys have on, like, where he is coming out of that. You know what I mean? But I think you guys would agree. I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you guys would agree. Like, there were a lot of plays in that game where it looked like he really didn't know what he was looking at. And, all right, like, I'm going to try to run to get myself out of this. And I think he figured out pretty quickly that, like, he can't get away from the rush the way he could in college. Like, I'd say there were a handful of plays like that, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. Nobody here actually thought he played well on Sunday.
Yeah, he looked bad.
Yeah, so, like, there's that thing about it, like, where it's like, okay, like, how are you ever going to get him? So now, like, this is an example, right? Like, so, like, those plays where, he drifts, and now all of a sudden he's, like, screwing his tackles over, right? Like, so his tackles are kind of blocking to a spot, and he is, like, backing into that spot. All right, like, so, like, now, like, those plays have resulted in big hits. On other plays, he's getting pressure from the middle. Like, are you gonna do you trust that this week all of a sudden he's going to start stepping up in the pocket, or is he going to reinforce bad habits?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the practice is for now.
I mean, can you simulate that in practice?
Against Myles Garrett and Mason Graham, I think he might be able to.
In a week? Well, like, do you think that bad habit that he had for 4 years in college is going to be solved in a week of practice? I don't know. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. But I think it's a complicated situation. I think it's complicated by his last name. Like, I personally think, like he, based on what I know, I think that their intention was to redshirt him this year and, like, maybe get a look at him at the end of the year. And I think what happened on Sunday represents why. And so now, like, the good news is now they'll get a chance to go and build something for him and try to scheme something up that is going to give him a better chance in this game. But, again, like, I think if anybody's expecting some miracle, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. And that's where, like, the Tebow mania thing comes in. Like, I remember going through that. Like, in anything positive that happens in one of these games, it's like, oh my God, see, you know what I mean? Oh, he threw a ball into the flat against all odds. It's like with Tebow, like, where I remember Marion Barber fumbled the ball. Marion Barber on the Bears fumbled the ball, and that was why the Broncos won that game. And it was almost like the hand of God knocked the ball out of Marion Barber's hands. Like, Tebow mania lives. They won that game like 9-8 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, that's sort of what you're dealing with right now, which, again, is entertaining for all of us, but I'm not necessarily as great for your football team.
Albert, we got to run, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Albert.
All right. I hope I didn't offend you guys too much.
Not at all.
We're pretty hard to offend. Yeah.
Like I said, that was fun.
I had fun. Did you have fun?
I had a lot of fun.
Albert, we'll talk to you next week, buddy.
Thanks, Albert.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.